Hey everybody, welcome to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. Got a quick update for you, and if you follow my Instagram page, hopefully you saw the still photos that I published of this, but I've been working on the universal pillar tool drill head, and I'm really pleased with the progress I made on the spindle pulley. It was quite a lot of work. This is just a chunk of 2.5-inch steel that I got surplus, maybe from Russ, maybe if it was you, thank you very much. It's really come in handy. But first I had to turn that down to 1.5 inch diameter here, and then I bored it out for just a press fit on the bearing, the bushing rather, that will go around the upper small spindle. And I had to bore out a little space here for the head of that spindle and bore another space for the driving plate. So it was a good bit of boring operations with this carbide tip boring cutter is what I used. And when I got that done, then I cut the spindle, the groove for the V-belt, and that was very, very interesting. First I marked it out, and I used this cutoff tool that I have. You've probably seen me use that before. It's a giant chunk of tool steel that I've ground down to a very thin space. I used that to rough it out, and then excuse me, I used a piece of 1/4-inch tool steel that I ground as a form tool, and as you can see here, hopefully I did it in 2 halves, so that's coming out good. So I cut this. Once it was roughed out, I just used this form tool first. What it is 1/4-inch tool steel. I just marked out, you might be able to see some of the blue and the scratching marks here, but the depth is 240 thousandths. The width at the point is something like 40 thousandths, and the entire width of the cutter was 140 thousandths. So I ground that and ground the little angle on this one, and then so that's what I used to cut the right side, if you will. And notice here I used the opposite end of the same piece of tool steel to create a form tool for the left side. And it was real tricky. As you can see, I had to relieve a little bit extra of it in order to be able to fit in here with the forejaw. I should have chucked this out a little bit further, but I didn't. So anyway, it worked out great, and hopefully I'll be able to shoot a little video for you of the cutting, because the next thing I need to do is turn this around, turn this part down to a 2-inch diameter, and then cut a V-groove in it. So I'm going to try to take a little video of that for the next segment and show you how the form tools work, because it cuts off a really neat looking chip. It's a really smooth kind of ribbon like chip, and very happy with that. So thanks for joining again. Stand by for section 2. Hey everybody, for this next segment in the Metal Mill 52 workshop and making the spindle pulley, as you can see, I've got it reversed in the forejaw chuck. I very carefully centered it, both the outside diameter and also to make sure that it was running flush or true here. I've got brass on all 4 of the jaws, and I actually used some old business cards of mine to do the offset here. So there's about you can't see it, there's about a 5 thou gap in between the rim of the pulley and the jaws themselves, so that made it easier for me to turn it down. It was 2.5 inches in diameter, now it's down to 2, and I've marked it, and you might be able to see a little faint line there. I've scribed where the center line of the pulley is, just to give me a rough alignment as I get closer to actually machining this. So I've got see if I can tip this over and show you the cutter. There's the cutoff tool right here, that I've got it in place. I've got it aligned and locked down, and I also measured to get the center of this. So, and let me show you, pull over here, I'm gonna push the tool in a little bit. Where are we at there? There we go. Alright, I'm gonna crank the tool in just so it makes contact with the work, and I'll mark my 0 for my X. Not hard, but just touching. So let's mark the 0 here. And then coming back down, I'll back it out so it doesn't interfere with the work. Now, as you can see, I'm moving it down, and the center of the V-groove is supposed to be 0.203125. They gave the thing in fractions, so 0.203-ish is the center. And what I'm trying to do, as you might be able to tell, I'm moving it back and forth, and I'm trying to get on my DRO the 0.03, and let's see, we just tip it. See, it's really sensitive. There we go. Okay, that's probably as close as I'm going to get. So I'm going to use that for my center line, and I'm just going to go in. I'll just basically plunge cut for a while. I'll be able to go in and plunge cut to the 250 thou depth, and eventually go all the way to 480 thousandths is how deep it is. And what I'll do next, I'll move my cutter over the furthest, from the surface. The furthest it's going to go is 0.341 over towards to the left when I move it, and when I move it out, closest to the bottom edge, it's about a 1/16 of an inch gap there. So I hope that makes sense. I do the excuse me, do the math on how far the cutter's got to move. I actually need to adjust these for the width of the cutter, because I've got the cutter set right there, right on the center, and it's actually the cutter's 18 thousandths. So if I was to move it over all that way, it would cut too far. So I'll have to take these numbers and remove 18 thousandths from them. So that's half of the width of the cutter at the tip for the parting tool. And so I'll be able to lay out the basic cut, and then I'll just by eye from the edges to the center, I'll just by eye cut a V groove, and then I'll replace it with the actual form tool that I showed earlier, and I'll cut that. So hopefully I'll get some live action of that, and that'll make some sense to you. So stand by for the next segment. Thanks. Hey folks, next little segment here. That did not take long at all. I shot the second segment maybe 10 minutes ago, something like that, maybe even less, where I was describing the cutoff tool. As you can see, I did offset it a little bit, so it's sticking out again for clearance for the jaws there. And now I've got I'll show you the form tool for the right side of the pulley groove is in position. Get some light on, there we go. And what I've done, I've just touched it off on the Z-axis here, so it's the inside of it is touching the base of the pulley. So now what I did, I zeroed the Z here, so I can move it over to the center line, the 0.203. I'll do that in a second. Another thing I need to do, sorry for the erratic camera work here, but I need to touch this. I'm going to go into the center if I have enough room. Where are we at here? Man, I don't know if I can show this or not, but I do need to touch the diameter. Hey everybody, welcome to the next segment of the Metal Mill 52, making the spindle pulley. As you can see, just a few minutes ago, actually in real time, I used the cutoff tool to make this kind of a yo-yo shaped groove inside the center of the pulley, removing a lot of material that is going to be there, need to be removed, so that the form tool doesn't have to work so hard. And that's another point of making the form tool in halves, so there's clearance on both sides for the cutting, and it just makes it simpler that way. So right now what I'm doing, I'm touching off the tool onto the base of the spindle pulley, and I'm going to set my zero there. Alright, and so now I can just move it to the 0.023 to the center. The other thing I need to do, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I just touched the tool to the rim of the material, the unmachined rim, so I'm going to set the X0 so I know how deep to go. And because my DRO is set up for, I could change it, but I don't want to, but because it's set up for diameters, the depth of cut is 240 thousandths. So You have to double that though, because the reading comes in halves. So a few minutes ago, when I said the cut is 480 thou deep, what I meant was the readout is 480. And see, I'm trying to, there we go, trying to tickle it to get the Z to the center line. And I have machined using the cutoff tool down to 240,000 steps, or 480 on the readout. Sorry, there's not better light there. Anyway, so that's the setup, and let's see. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to try to turn this on and just give you a little flavor for how the form tool itself cuts. So hang on a second here. Alright, and you'll see also that I have it set on a very slow speed. So 70 RPM is the cutting speed. If I had a third hand, I'd hold a flashlight so you could see the actual cut. But from where I'm standing, I can see it. Probably way better than it's showing up on the video. But if all goes well, you'll see some ribbon-like pieces of steel coming off as the form tool. Right, I'm turning it in on the x-axis, traveling in. It really is, to me, this is one of the artistic kind of things. That's why I'm not going to video the whole thing, but you have to kind of use both hands and ease into it. Right now my depth of cut is about 150 thou deep. It's showing up 300 on the digital readout. 278. Now you might be able to start to see some little slivers of steel coming off. Try to get a little better angle here. It's very slight ribbon-like. I don't know what kind of steel this is, but it really cuts nice. It cuts like 12L14. I don't think it is, but it could be. But really happy with it. It's lovely to work. Hopefully you can see those ribbons coming off. It's really, really nice. I got about 30 thousandths more of depth of cut, and I'm just easing off those uneven cuts that were made by the uneven cuts that were made by the other tool. So that's it. That's 480 thou is reading and still on my original center line. Let me go ahead and back the tool out and cut the lathe off. Hopefully you can see it now. So that is it's pretty nice. What I'm going to do, I'll machine both of them, and I'm going to move it around by hand a little bit as I cut it. But I mean, just compare one side to the other. You can see how clean the right side is, and how nicely the form tool evens that all out. So I will widen it out just a wee bit with my hand. These cutters are, if anything, they're either right on or teeny bit undersized. So it gives you the flexibility. You can move, because it's so small. I can move it to the right and clean that up. Just kind of get rid of any little lines that are left there. So I'm going to do that before I remove the tool, and then I will I'll flip this thing around, flip the tool end for end, and use the other side cutter to cut the left side. But you get the idea. Again, hope you find that interesting. Stay tuned for more from Metal Mill 52. Hope you can see this. I'm making the final cut, and you can see hopefully you can see the beautiful little thin ribbon-like pieces of steel coming off there on that cutter. Just a little bit more to go. Just cleaning up here, Man, that's looking nice. Okay. Two more thou, one more thou. Bingo. Alright, beautiful. Pull the tool out. You can see the swarf. Look at that. It's weird, it's almost like yarn. It's how fine this stuff is. Look at that. Really neat. And so that's the final machining pass on the right hand side. I told you I'd adjust it around a little bit. Sorry about the lousy camera work, guys, but man, that is sweet. That is so pretty looking. Fred, thank you for teaching me how to use form tools. Alright, we'll flip it around and we'll cut the left side and we'll do a wrap up. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. In the last segment, as you can see, I've worked on this spindle pulley a little bit. I widened out the groove in the bottom. It has to be 80 thousandths of an inch wide, and I worked on it with some files, just trying to take off a few of the rough edges. And it is a challenge. As you can see, I've got this tool stuck way out there. If I had it stuck further out of the chuck, or perhaps had used a 3-jaw, then it would have probably been a lot easier, but I wouldn't have been satisfied with the centering of it. So a little trade-off there, but I am pleased with how the pulley looks overall. So the next thing to do is just take it out, clean it up. I need to press the bearing into it in the center, and then I will be cutting the drive plate, and I'll probably mark that out tonight before I go in. Cut the drive plate and machine it to 1 3/8 so it fits in the hole in the top of the spindle pulley, and then making a little drive slug. So lots of little things left to go here. It's late on a Saturday night, but it's been fun out here, and really pleased with how the pulleys come out. Stay tuned for future updates, and thanks again everybody. I appreciate you watching. I hope you like the effort on the stringing things together and showing a little bit of live action. And please let me know. I always enjoy the comments, and thanks. We picked up a couple more subscribers this week, so appreciate that, everybody. Welcome the new subscribers. Look forward to hearing from you and what kind of projects you're working on, and sharing my little stuff with you. So I'm certainly no expert, but I always enjoy sharing if I've figured out something or can show it and help. Take care, everybody.